Namaste, Galactic family, and welcome back to my channel, Indigo Angel. Come on into this dimension, you guys, and into this energy update. Be sure to subscribe, hit that notifications bell, comment, and share this video. Put a big like on this video today, as we are going to be diving into some pretty intensive topics, getting into the tyrannical death seals that the Dracos had placed during the Aryan timeline, also diving into which seals I have been seeing energetically globally have been being released, but also what is playing out on a biological level. So we're going to be talking more extensively about what these seals are connected to within the planetary field, within the ley lines, within the grid works, and also diving into the Tothian Luciferians, as well as Toth does seem to be at the core of one of these implants in particular, called the Caduceus implant, which is something that I've been seeing is actually inserted down the central rod of the universal tree of life geometry that's running in the field, within um, the inversions of it, basically, but also within the formations of it geometrically in the body that are not inverted. So this is like a huge distortion that's running down the rod system. So this is kind of where energetically, probably the core or the bulk of all negative agendas, nefarious agendas, everything that has to do with the farming of humans, the pharmaceutical companies, corporations, the AI blood, silver blood seems to be really rooted within the universal humanitarian collective. And so we're going to dive into the details of this. I know this is probably a new concept for many of you, what I'm going to be talking about today. Some of you that have been following me for a while, you're going to know more extensively what this is about if you have gotten a Draco seal removal with me at one point in time or another. You'll also know what this is more about. So I'm going to explain this as much as I possibly can. There's so much that's going to come from this update particularly. And why I'm talking about it now is because I have been seeing particular wormhole sites within the 0 point field of the planetary field that are, I don't want to say being activated, but it's like they're releasing a plasma. They're releasing a darker cloud of residue that is releasing from the seals that are energetically drawing through the artificial ley lines from these particular wormhole sites. So I'm going to dive into all of this today. I also, before I get into this, I want to just send my condolences out to the people who have lost their lives in Hurricane Ian. As I was down in Pensacola, Florida last Tuesday, and it was the day right before the storm energies had come into Pensacola. I know that this is kind of very outside of the eye of the storm, but there was still a lot of, hurricane type energy, and the atmosphere, the winds, the way that the water was acting and responding. And it was really interesting. I don't think I've ever been to the coast right before a looming hurricane, and there were hundreds, if not thousands or millions of jellyfish that were all kind of washing up on the shore. And it was really interesting because I was told that the jellyfish are called Medusa in Polish. So it was kind of washing up this Medusa archetypal energy. And I even had met with some guardians of the pier, the guardians of the beaches, the next following morning. It was Wednesday morning. And I met with a guy who I could see into the depth of his soul. And this was right as the storm was starting to really kind of filter and come into the Pensacola area. And it was like very strong Marduk, or almost like an angry Poseidon energy that was in the depth of his eyes. And so I could really see how the hurricane was coming in on this more darker current, or this darker frequency of destruction, of anger, disparity, resentment towards the mother, towards the feminine, towards Gaia. And it was this really deep-seated anger and this deep-seated hatred almost that was stirring alchemically in the fields that were charged by the guardians of the coastal areas. This Marduk type dark Poseidon energy just was coming in and embodying itself in the souls of those who were monitoring the coast. And so I could see how this weather happening was really activating these energies, and how it honestly led me to see how these hurricanes are a psyop at the end of the day. This is a political campaign. This is a political push to get rivalries between the red and blue states. This is a nefarious agenda that is generated by HAARP. Shortly after that, I received messages from a friend that was showing me how there are hundreds of locations of HAARP all over the globe, and how they were creating a network system to funnel artificial weather modification and weather manipulation to generate these types of destructive hurricanes, and then go and blame it on the concepts and ideologies of climate change to stir up political campaigns and agendas. So we have to keep, I think, all of that in mind when we have these things playing out, that there are so many tiers of hierarchical, nefarious distortions that are playing and plaguing off of these seals. And that is why I decided to do this energy update, really diving into the Draco seals and how these are kind of rooted and are the underlying blockages within the genetic compositions of those that are, hybridized as these Tothian Luciferian genetics, also the Anunnaki Draco hybridized lineages and lines, that everything's kind of working through this perfect system of carrying these spiritual underlying archetypal entities, incubuses, succubuses, and it's almost as if they are like it's like a false matrix that comes in even into the spiritual identity account of it all. So really quickly, before I dive into this update completely, I just want to take a second to cover some of the common questions that people have been asking me about the Gridwork Facilitator course, as it is officially launched for sign up, and people have been consistently asking me some of the same questions. And so I want to kind of just cover all of that with you guys. Registration is now all the way until October 22nd, 2022. So getting everybody registered and in the course classwork for the first course date, which is October 22nd, 2022. I will include the links below for sign up in the description. So if you're interested, please be sure to reserve your spot for this class, as this course is going to be so epic, you guys. It's going to be filled with so much in-depth instruction for developing real transformational grid sessions. You will not want to miss this if you are stepping into Gridkeeper Ascension codes, if you are Indigo Type 1, Indigo Type 2, even Indigo Type 3. Okay, all of this is super beneficial for your evolution as you begin to expand into the light matrices that are simultaneous to the planetary light matrices, and all of the axial tonal lines, the ley lines, the Stargate locations. Okay, all of this is one with your field. And as you kind of come more into Gridkeeper consciousness, you're able to interdimensionally navigate those fields and anatomy and structures within yourself to do much more deeper, intentful grid keeping. So the first question that I keep getting is, does this course require any prerequisites? And the answer is no. The Gridwork Facilitator course will start at the beginner levels with Intro to Gridwork and Gridwork Anatomy. And then it's going to work its way into the facilitation training, discussing things like the ley lines, the stargates, what is organic versus what is man-made, underwater stargates, mother arcing sites, 13-dimensional transharmonic gate systems, sacred sites, organic nodal points, inner earth passageways, earth-based passageways, cosmic passageways, galactic passageways, crystal disks, and sacred crystal caverns, sacred crystal nodal points, and where these all generate and amplify themselves via the timeline expressions of the global Earth field and those angular ley lines and systems that generate according to particular timelines. What all of this means on a planetary spiritual level. We'll even be diving into, what do the trenches mean on a spiritual level? What do the mountains mean on a spiritual level? What do the valleys and the rivers and the lakes and the oceans? We're going to really kind of come to see the earth as this very intricate spiritual body with many, many dynamic functionings within it, and how we can navigate and route the land essentially to read the energetic systems of the earth. So it's going to go from an on the boots, on the ground grid keeper perspective, all the way to doing these things remotely via Zoom, via Skype, via whatever platforms that we access to remote in and do grid work through facilitation. So then we'll later get into the course as it evolves in the next classes, discussing everything with facilitation training, discussing topics such as group remote viewing, group by location, group landing sites, how to bring groups into landing sites, what portal structures do we typically use, what are the best ways to come into landing sites, go through the processes of group discovery, and then focus on group extraction missions as well. So I will be providing also a lot of visual technologies that will allow the mind to access the landing sites and Stargate sites. So there's a lot of actual technique that can go into this as well. The more that you attune yourself to Stargate mechanics, which will also be another topic in the course as well, Stargate mechanics. So I will be giving all of these technologies that you can then utilize in your facilitation, also in your teachings, and going into things like the flow of the journey, how to navigate group participation and etiquette, spiritual safety, setting intentions, setting shields, setting spiritual VPNs, tools, and bringing in healing modalities, which are all vital in the processes of having successful group work and hosting a container. So if your goal is to do individual grid work, all the way to hosting small to large group grid sessions for personal and global healing reasons, this course will have everything you need to know to be most impactful and successful in your grid dealings. And so question number 2 is, will there be access to replays and downloads? And the answer is yes. So if you purchase the course through my website and through the landing page, you will gain access to the platform in which I'm hosting the course, and you will have full access after the live teachings to download the video series. So all of this will be done live, and it will be interactive as well. You also will have to make your way through each video in its entirety to ensure certification. So this will be a certification course where you will be certified as a grid work facilitator that you can then use for your schools, you can use for your groups, your websites, whatever public or private endeavor that you choose to list your qualifications, but you will be certified as a grid work instructor. Another question I have been asked is, why am I not having a class in December? Because I did the course October, November, January, February. And that is because I will be in Rome in December. I'm going to be taking a trip to the Vatican, doing live action, boots on the ground grid work and energy updates there, hoping to create a reassignment of Medusa's head art piece, where we're going to pull in some really cool, fascinating things with the green screen. And it's going to be really awesome. Hopefully, we'll be able to get some good filming shots there. I don't know how crazy it is there in Rome in terms of what they do and don't allow in terms of bringing, professional film equipment and things like this. So we'll have to see what we can get away with. But I will be ultimately going to clear the Vatican seals in the 5D reversal gate systems there. So really going to be focusing on clearing the Archangel Michael ley line, clearing the energies down to CERN and the Temple of Apollyon, which is ultimately the Temple of Destruction, and clearing a lot of these Thothean, Luciferian energies that are plaguing the earth all around those locations there. So the class for the Gridwork Facilitator course will be held on the 22nd of every month, October, November, January, and February. It will be somewhat of a commitment, but it's only 2 classes once a month. So it's really not too bad if you can make the time and space for it. The completion date will be February 22nd, 2023. If you are on my Patreon, I highly encourage you to upgrade your tier to the Super Grid Worker package to have access to the course. And in December, when I'm not having coursework, I will be hosting something small via Zoom in the month of December just for my patrons. So I'll probably be doing that live from Rome as well. So I'm so excited to offer this to everyone. And if anyone has any more questions about the course in specific, just drop them in the comments below, and I will do my best to continue to answer these as we get closer to the first course day. And yeah, I'm just filling you guys in with my schedule for the end of the year here as well. I'm going to be a very busy girl, but still trying to get to all of my personal sessions and all of my one-on-ones that I have with people booked already, as these are very important to me to get to do this work with you guys. And I just love the connections and the communication that I have with everyone. So thank you so much for your love and support, and also your patience with the work that I'm doing. So back to the Vatican seals. What I have been seeing energetically is we've had a shift over the last few days. I don't know if you guys have felt it, but the energy has become just a little bit more intense. There has been somewhat of an alchemical shift inside of the body, inside of the plasma field, inside of the DNA, inside of the central nervous system. And everything is just a little bit more heightened, a little bit more on edge. Energy is felt more intentfully and more impactfully. Our bodies have become more holographically. One thing that I have noticed within myself is that it is like we are going through heating and cooling processes of radiation. Now that we are coming into, at least here in the States, we're shifting into the fall season, and essentially we've integrated higher levels of radiation over the summer months due to electromagnetic frequency, artificial frequency impulses and scalar waves of energy, HAARP, CIA, CERN, all of these things that are, really detrimental to the health of the planet and to the magnetic grid, and what kind of upholds our body, our immune systems, our spiritual immune systems. We've integrated a lot more. And so as we come into the cooler time of year, we're actually going through heating and cooling processes in our body, trying to integrate and alchemize and transmute the over inundation of these artificial frequencies that are like scatter radiation in our energy fields. And so that's really what is stirring the intensity of the energy shifts, particularly over the last few days and even over the last week, is that we are integrating and transmuting so much that is inherently unnatural and um, more detrimental frequencies. We're trying to alchemize this within our field. So it's making us more sensitive. It's making us more emotionally on edge. It's opening up and expanding wormhole systems for some people that have open wormholes in their fields, particularly in the lower parts of their body and their lower parts of their fields, around the base of the spine, around their feet. It's strengthening and tightening the artificial seals and systems. And it's also just causing communication issues, assumptions, right? We're heading into a time of major retrograde with multiple planets. And so there's just a lot of more chaos that is unsuing itself at the moment. I think overall the globe is kind of in a dismay with the things that are going on when it comes to catastrophic world events. Even the world leaders are even more on edge with the battle between the United States and Russia. There's just so much that is currently unfolding at this time, and it's creating a static cloud that is ultimately around the globe in terms of our intercommunications. And so that's kind of what I've been seeing on a generalized level. Going deeper into the seal systems, I've been seeing that there's been particular seals beginning to release more that are running on the planetary 0 point field, the vertical ascension column of the planet. And I just want to apologize if I have any crazy background noise at the moment, because as soon as I seem to get onto film, that's when everything likes to present itself. And right now, the lawn mowing guy just showed up. So he's going to be out there doing that. If it gets too loud, I may have to pause and keep filming later. But essentially, yeah, I've been seeing that the 0 point field vertical ascension column of the planet is running through the beginning and ending points of the Archangel Michael ley lines, the Albion ley lines, the 13 Mother Dragon grids, and the Arthur and Guinevere planetary seed codes and light grid templates. This has more to do with the draconian installation of seals. Everything that's running on the 0 point field is Aryan timeline related, draconian timeline related, reptilian timeline related, existing off the Marduk and Atlantean grid templating, the checkerboard mutations, everything that was placed going from the Atlantean to the Aryan systems. There's actually seals inserted between timelines. All of this was placed ultimately to try to suppress and limit humanity from shifting or releasing more at this time. So I'm going to bring up this draconian seal picture here. Now, everything you see in this picture is in the body, is equally installed in the planetary grids. These were installed similarly to how the J seals were installed in a timeline field on particular ley line, distorted through planetary like reversal mechanics. And so these were placed in the timeline of the Aryan root race and are considered the Draco hybrid tyrannical death seals, affecting the central and right side tonal lines, the third and the sixth tonal lines. These continue to wreak havoc on the androgynous and the masculine template. The J seals and DAO seals are two completely different set of seal matrix implants in the human biology and the planetary grid. Now, what I'm seeing here is that there have been more releasing starting right at the Vatican seal. So starting right here up at the causal level and layer of the vertical ascension column planetarily and biologically. This is beginning to work down into the Solomon seal and also down to the monarchy seal here, given the events of the death of the queen and the rigorous transformation that is taking place within the apex of the reptilian hive. Okay, so this seal is going through a transformation, so to speak. When it comes to the monarchy seal, This one means mono, which means ruler over top. So this seal represents the plug that grants unconscious submission to the one ruler over the top of you, because it disallows you from being able to have rights to the spiritual documentation or record keeping of your family lineage past 3 to 5 generations. So it's basically like a record keeping stopper. And it comes down through a plethora of contracts and reigning living monarchs that have all stamped this seal multiple times. Um, it's a necessity to keep a monarchy in reign, as to keep the control over the reigning bloodlines. And so all of yours is disabled. That's what they've done. They basically placed this seal to disable within the fourth strand of the DNA, and sealed it in a monarchy vault and a code of silence. So this was a declaration seal in wax. And like I said, every living reigning monarch has essentially signed and stamped this seal. It's gone under code names of the Great Seal of the Realm, of the Eternal Monarch. This declaration is classifying all variable documentation of this. Because of this seal is very thick, and it's plugged into the greatest rulership on the Earth's grids, covering the extension of the most landmass ruled by one head of state. So this seal extends itself and is implanted through the 16 Commonwealth realms, and also through the genetics, also through the bloodlines of the European. This oligarchy hierarchy tends to be tyrannical, relying on public obedience, oppression, theatrical mass dramas, smokescreens, gaslighting, veils of fame, popularity, and illusion. They also rely on their coalitions with other negative ETs or facets of their brotherhood to initiate planetary biowarfare. And this is coming through the serpent brotherhoods, through psyops and denial, propaganda, distraction campaigns, open displays of public emotional manipulation, pole manipulation, solar manipulation, DNA modification according to positive and negative ruses. It's multi-layered. It can look very thick. It is cohesive with the J seals. They work in compatibility with one another with the Zeta seal. So it's working with the insectoid reptilians, to make sure that these are placed and kept in the areas of the biology that they placed them. This is coming through Royal Draco's involvement, Draco Anunnaki hybrids, Aquilas, Orions, Aldebarans, Archons, Illuminati, Tothian, Luciferians, CIA, Knights Templars, Freemasons, Nazis. It's just extending basically every secret group in society that's ever came in with the negative agenda of corruption. All documentation of these nations' collaborative partnerships has been sworn under this seal. So this is going through like a rewrite all the way up to the Vatican seal, essentially. There has been energetic valve switches essentially marked at the seal locations, like seal axioms. These have been kind of cracked and lifted. And this is what's bringing forth new implants that are interconnected here at the third eye that I have been seeing repetitively over the last 3 weeks. Now, I don't think that these seals are new. I just think that they've been more dormant in the collective subfields, particularly the caduceus seal and implant, which I want to get into at a much deeper level today. Now, the Vatican seal, which is what has been really opened up this year with all of the fires, with the major sacral great reset that we had, all of the activations from Machu Picchu this year that were more heightened, more extensive than other years. And this shift of leadership into the feminine role of the prime minister at the Vatican location. So with the most intentful pushback that we've also been seeing with the natives as well, there's been a lot of native pushback towards the Vatican with injustices, with their murdered children, with the withholding of the sacred artifacts. And so the Vatican seal, I think, is going through It's like they're leaking, like leaking seals. This seal is considered the seal of confession that hosts the global egregore food source and loose station of fear from the wrath of God. Begins at the causal chakra as a large red seal and ties into the DAO seal, which ties into the testes, into the reproductive systems, causing a whole havoc of reproductive issues, both male and female. I've seen so much with this. Especially in the masculine, seems to take a toll on the testes, with oversized testes, undersized testes, like all of these testicle issues, cancers, things like this. They distort reproductive systems so badly, so that way they can imprint the Vatican seal on the unborn children, stringing through intergenerational crucifixion, persecution, Satanism, black magic, curses. The list really goes on with this. Ritualistic magic, murder, treason, all of these things. The reason why this seal is so powerful is it holds control reversals over the gates of transition, such as time, duality, doorways, passageways, frames. It is cohesive with the Saturnian systems. Came through the Saturnian systems, essentially. It's really connected energetically to the Temple of Janus, the double-faced man that represents war, basically. And so they have a lot of power to alter lenses of perception. And they work directly with the Illuminati, the Jesuits, the Black Sun Belial families, split-tongued Masonic serpent brotherhoods, which are not the same as the Hydra serpent primordial mother progenitor races. Okay, these are different. And this is where it gets so confusing, is because people think that, the Hydra system or the serpent system, primordial progenitor systems are connected to these. They're not. Okay, these are alterations of these. These are hijacking of these energies, basically hijacking everything from the seraphim soul monadic lineage and field. But they work directly with the Tothian Luciferians, corporations, banking institution, world leaders, CERN, HAARP, CIA, etc. This seal I am seeing is running and coding that is linking to other black hole wormhole systems that are running and starting in Ireland. So I just want to show this to you guys. This is something that has been revealing itself to me in terms of grid work. Okay, so it seems like the Vatican seal is linking into other black hole and wormhole systems that are running and starting in Ireland. So in a wormhole called Inishmore, it's called the Serpent's Lair. It's a huge pool of water of the Aran Islands of the Galloway Bay. So it's located here in Inishmore. I have another picture of it. I'll pull it up in just a second. Essentially, many people visit this wormhole and actually swim in it, but it carries portal passageways into the 666 wormhole in the Atlantic Ocean. The thing about this passageway is a lot of crazy, I guess, really bad things have happened here. The slaughter of Ara, in which Ua Lochane, royal heir of Caraco Madrad, was killed in Port Ciarán in Ara. Someone slew him to death. There was a great pestilence that was here. Many people have died here at this location. There was a lot of other accounts of murder that have happened here. There's a lot of ships that have wrecked here off of this island. They have took prisoners in the southern country of this area. And again, also more murdering and treacherous perpetrators that have done things to fugitives in boats and put out to sea. So it's really just harboring a lot of evil practices that have happened here at this location. And I've been just seeing that this is the wormhole that the Vatican is energetically resourcing passageways from the Inishmore, Wisa, and black hole systems from this location that uphold the internal serpent energy inside the Vatican itself. So let me just show you guys a quick picture of this. Okay, so this is the actual wormhole of Inishmore. It's like this cutout cement that goes down into some water. here. It can only be accessed by walking along the cliffs in the South Ancient site of Ireland. And we wonder why Ireland right now is just under so much as a society. There's just a lot of addiction, a lot of siphoning, a lot of hijacking, a lot of slaughtering and harvesting their indigos. All of the women of Ireland, were ran very extensively through the forest breeding programs, as many of us know. And essentially, it upholds, I think, because it's this considered the serpent's lair. I think this is where the internal architecture of the snakehead that the Vatican is siphoning off of is ultimately connected to. Let me show you a picture of that. Okay, so this is the Serpent Cathedral and its altar. This is inside of the church and the Vatican. This is where the Pope sits, in this really underworld type looking demonic freaking set behind him. And then above, they have the eyes of the serpent's lair. So I think they're drawing this down from that Inishmore Wisa black hole system from this location. The Vatican seal is such a detrimental one because it really blocks, especially all the Indo-European lines, Germanic lines, Italian lines, everything over in Europe, the Irish, the Scottish, the Welsh, especially the Welsh. They really have a lot of damages from this Vatican seal, blocking the reproductive system, clogging it with generational wounds of the patriarchy's control and loss of sovereignty over their bodies. Creational gnosis, many of us incarnate from birth carrying these patriarchal wounds from the planetary Vatican seal of confession that we can't actually trace back to any specific remembered trauma. Therefore, we cannot heal it. So this is because the seal blocks the memory of the original traumas. And this is happening to both men and women. It distorts the soul's innate and natural ability to procreate with soulmate fifth dimensional alignment to bring in souls from higher dimensions and evolved reincarnates prepared to anchor in the Earth's highest timeline. This is definitely a draconian hybrid distortion, reptilian, Maldek, Luciferian, Tothian, hybridized Anunnaki that feeds their forced breeding programs. And you have to remember when I'm shouting out all of these names, it's ultimately coming down a hierarchy of overlords. So they're all just, it's just one has a little bit more power than the other, but they're all working for the same agendas ultimately. Both these seals have to be removed from the causal field and the lower DAO area and the reproductive area. This is also connected to other types of seals, but this seal prohibits sovereigns from speaking their truth directly to God, places the priest in front of one's confession, also keeps shadow and phantom systems and loop cycles through frequencies of non-reconciliation and separation. And that's what the priest, the gatekeepers, ultimately serve. If you look at the Vatican papal coat of arms, the crossed keys with the two loophole bottoms signify the ovaries. The red rope connects the two fallopian tubes, and the keys at the top of the cross are tied to the red ropes at the intersection point of the keys of confession. I've talked a lot about this when I was going on Jean-Claude's channel. And I probably will be talking a lot more about this extensively when I take my trip to Rome to do some of this clearing work. This one is also connected to the fleur-de-lis implants, again, heavily connected to the forest breeding programs through Irish, through the wormhole. I'm telling you, this is all connected here through the ley lines. And also France as well. The fleur-de-lis implant ultimately comes from France. So these are all connected. Bloodlines, blood types. And the fleur-de-lis implant may have been even more activated during the 1600s when they actually took away woman's natural way of giving birth, which was through squatting and sitting and different positions other than being on their back. They said it was King Louis X1V, I think it's King Louis the 13th or the 15th. I'm not really sure, of France, but he ruled during that time just so he could witness the birth of his children that women had to now give birth lying down. So I think this exacerbated the fleur-de-lis implant, even though it ultimately came down through the imposition of the Christed bloodline being imposed on the Merovingian bloodline. But essentially, as more of women's basically intuitive rights were stripped from them, it was definitely amplified with the fact that women had to lay on their backs. And then ultimately, this is where I think that caduceus implant comes in, is because it turns the birthing process into a medical procedure, essentially, that is taken out of the intuitive hands of doulas and natural births that are most inherently fundamental to the health and well-being of the mother and the child. These seals seem to be working in cohesive. So the Vatican seal, and let me go back to my picture here really quick. Okay, perfect. So now the Vatican seal, which is this one up here, is connected. There's like three that are really connected: Vatican seal, Baphomet seal, Solomon seal, monarchy seal. They really block everything from the causal field of consciousness down to the center of the chest, which is really, interfering with the main core essence of our intuitive perception. Why I'm bringing this all up now is because we are going into Draco season. Okay. Like, we've entered the times have shifted. Okay. That alchemical shift we're feeling, this is the wormholes gain momentum. We kind of shift into the, artificial polarity, where these things start to become more exacerbated, more in our face, more where we have to deal with the strongholds of these types of global distortions, basically. What I've been seeing over the last few weeks that's just been replaying over in my mind is the implant of the caduceus. So the caduceus, Latin from Greek, is the staff carried by Hermes in Greek mythology, but consequently is the staff that was brought forth by Hermes Trismegistus in Greco-Egyptian mythology. So essentially Thoth. Okay. And for those of you who are a part of Guardian Consciousness, who have been following the works of Lisa Renee Ashiana-Dean, you'll know that Thoth has basically taken and distorted the emerald tablets and, utilized a lot of this information to enslave humanity through Jewish Kabbalistic mysticism, and also through some of the more darker workings that have come forward from these things, ultimately from the King of Solomon and Aleister Crowley, which ultimately I do believe came from Ireland. So, I realized this through client session work, that this caduceus implant was an imposter light insert, an indoctrination, and it was installed to take advantage of the lower dimensional fields, 1D, 2D, 3D, and basically control the farming of humans. I've talked about the farming of humans in past updates through depopulation, kill shots, needle technology, surgical sterilization, gender mutilation, basically we're seeing the boom of this right now as they try to, propagate these transgender agendas. But basically what they're doing is they're, generating their own creations in the womb world. A lot of this all comes back down to the womb, womb fracking, womb hacking, womb siphoning, womb abduction, womb cloning, and just all of their creepy distortions of this. I mean, the Aldebaoth was one of them, but I mean, this really has gone very collectively now with all kinds of other creations within this. But most detrimentally, this plagues the universal tree of life. The caduceus implant, like I said in the beginning, it goes right down the central vertical column. Okay, I think it's probably one of the largest global implants that I've been seeing. And this isn't pertaining to a timeline. It's Atlantean, it's Atlantean, it's Aryan, but it is the combination of both of these timelines. This represents a staff that is inserted in the total vertical ascension column of the planet, down the shaft of the tree, an artificial rod placed in the tree. Fracking of the womb worlds, artificial splicing in the womb worlds, all descended from the forced breeding programs, which the caduceus implant holds in place. The caduceus implant is what is blocking consciousness from organic child and mother bonds and distorting and contributing to the womb siphoning, hijacking, abduction, transactional bondless births. Most predominantly surrogacy, which is a huge issue that we're seeing right now. And I actually want to do a video on this. I'm hoping to film this in the next day or two, where I go into the depth of the dark side of surrogacy and how this is a luxury of the rich and how this is being propagated and utilized by the reptilian genetics to do so many horrendous things. But this is definitely an offshoot of the forced breeding programs. Okay, so I'll tie that into that at some point. Now, this blocks so much more than this, and this is the number one implant I feel propagating initiatives to the Illuminati, corruption, and greed. And this comes back down to the Tothi and Luciferians, because these are the ones specifically groomed, that groomed the Illuminati hybrid lines, celebrities, politicians, world leaders, to be their representatives and to be the ground crew, basically carrying out the physical tasks required to gradually implement the consciousness enslavement blueprint on the global death orders, which is the cultural, programmed belief of the worshiping of a death culture, a death society. And this is being executed through the ascension cycles. And it's kind of like these are the antagonists in the climax of the dramas that are playing out, essentially. The Caduceus network was an installation that occurred as a result to damage in the Orion system. So this is all coming down through Orion wars. I think these are warfares over the 8th dimensional Stargate. And this is ultimately where this all began. It is 8-dimensional monadic mind siphoning. And it's also, this is still playing out. Like the battles of this are still playing out in the underwater stargates. So in Aden, and a lot of this is coming down through militarization, the Navy, the Air Force, HAARP, all of these things. And if I did a video on the Battle of the Stargate of Aden, I will leave that in the link as a link in the description as well, so you guys can check that video out. I've recommended watching it a few times, but this battle still wages at a planetary location. This is still going down. This is an access point through all the Royal Nibiru's, all of the Royal Orion hybrid, officials. They can come in and out of the planet in these particular zones. So we need to rebuild the 8th dimensional monadic mind, essentially. This is another area where we have to clear more of the Metatronic reversals. It's not just in the Flower of Life, which is ultimately tampered in the Tiamat grid. But this is also coming from the 8th dimensional field, where the architecture is most being impacted. There are a lot of guardian missions at this time, though. So it's like all of this nefarious stuff, all of these seals, right? But this is what's coming up for us to examine, to look at, to bring into consciousness, to bring into light as we go into the dark areas of our collective shared reality experiences and what we are holding here in this shadow, in this darkness. This is how we, reassemble the essence of the monadic spiritual bodies to align things more correctly to the human light body. It's a process of removing these seals. It's a process of identifying all of the corruption within that, and then being able to reassemble. These are guardian host projects, guardian host missions, rescue missions, reclamation missions. This is what we're all about and what we have been all about for quite some time. But yes, this Caduceus implant, I do feel, is something that enforces the beast machines technologies, enforces the trons in the earth, okay, the cerns of the earth, the frequency fences and nets. It's all designed to split the gender fields. It's all designed to distort and shut down the organic functioning of the rod systems in the earth by placing an artificial rod. And it's all happening through the medical system, ultimately, as one of the greatest Decepticons here. Essentially, this is something that, grid workers obviously sense and know, as they might even feel like this dark serpent energy or dark snake energy, again, that has nothing to do with the primordial Hydra energy, right? The progenitor energy of where the Pleiadians came in and seeded the 24th chromosome of the spiritual human light body is in these pure seraphim lines. But essentially, they did this. This was a brotherhood distortion. So they feel this really around the medical institutions. You might feel serpent energy, like snake like energy in the medical institutions, hospitals, basically anywhere where you're going to receive medical treatment. Power vortices, you might feel like the ground is actually infused with serpent, with snake energy. It's because there's phantom energy, and these are considered hibernization zones. These are the zoned areas where the serpent energy can hibernate and infest itself into the local energies and into the grids and into the ley lines and into the communities, and create that dysfunctional polarity. So yeah, drug companies, pharmaceutical companies, all carrying the caduceus symbol is referring to an intended destruction of particular systems in the body. One system that they try to destroy is the glandular system. Okay, this from doing seal removals for all of this time, I can see how extensive it is into the glandulary system, the hypothalamus, the pituitary, the lymphatic systems, okay, plagued with seals. It's plagued in the central nervous system, particularly with the Draco seals, and everything that they're tampering here on this vertical ascension column. This is distorting the central nervous system, the 10th vagus nerve, which then in turn plays a huge part on what's happening in the heart, the brain, the liver, the organs, damaging the DNA, particularly strands 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and 10, all the way to 10. So it's a lot of harvesting, a lot of, again, focus on transhumanism, cyborg, reptilian era, which is where we're seeing a new breed of reptilians come forward that are half, AI, half reptilian, half Galactic Federation, essentially. And so that's kind of what's going on with a lot of this. It's just really parasitic energy, and people are just not aware of it because it's actually getting turned on and off through scalar wave technologies. So it's coming in, and the tags, the implants, the seals activated, they play their time and whatever activation timeline, and then those dissolve, and then it's like the person never had them. So that's what's really tricky about this, and why people are getting so kind of put off by this. Yeah, it's absolutely necessary to stay away from pharmaceutical prescriptions. I'm not a doctor, of course, right? I'm not carrying the caduceus indoctrination, but essentially, a lot of those pharmaceutical drugs are carrying snake infested parasites. They're attached to the antibiotics. Okay, that's why, and that's the job of what they are. They are to go in and distort the gut biome, which is the core basis for all disease, all cancers. When the gut biome gets distorted, they're basically placing these snake parasites through the prescriptions. So yeah, there's a lot behind this. I do feel like the energy of Thoth is behind the caduceus seal. And really what's most disturbing about this and this energy update today, thank you guys for hanging in there with me for such a long update today, is the what are now the New Age Thothian Luciferians, which are ultimately the members of the Galactic Federation. Okay, because there are campaigns to essentially awaken humanity through control, through information that's given, that's fed ultimately to the awakening population, with the purpose to basically completely take over the new age, the new ascension, the new prophecies, the new earth, the disclosure communities, the disclosure movements. Essentially, they are targeting star seeds and indigos now because they know this is such a widespread collective at this point, 500 million strong. And so they are trying to, control all of the transmissions of the channeled material that would be sent to the awakening population in the guise of friendly ETs, friendly, ascended masters, you know, um, deceased famous figures in history. Basically, a lot of this is being tapped and resourced from the GF. Essentially, there's a lot of members that are propagating AI technologies. Okay, this is huge, you guys. This is huge. Ugh, I get, like kind of shaky thinking about how devastating it really is, because it's what the messages that they're sending ultimately are further separating humanity from the organic systems. And it's just being more and more intensified. And a lot of people are confused. And so it's like they're making friendly deals with the enemies, and people are unaware of how most of the GF is a reptile insectoid collective that is calling the public into submission with implantation of mind control technologies and technology frequency fences, and utilizing the scalar wave mechanics to turn these seals on and off, the tags on and off. So it's just a lot of imposters, a lot of ongoing of trying to control the intelligence fields, trying to control the opposition, control the politics, control all narratives, control the new age, the ascension, the disclosure community. And so, yeah, their primary job is basically to attack, dismiss, and debunk unapproved topics through the mass propaganda. And most people are involved in this. I'll just leave it at that. But essentially, it's really hard to find any truthful information at this point in time with a lot of this stuff. It seems as if these groups are just very well organized. And there's just a lot of psychological warfare tactics within the GF to further prey upon the spiritual and emotional desires of mostly pulling those that still have crucifixion wounds into the belief systems, to lead them into false ascension matrices in the astral plane, ultimately, so that way they can still harvest them for their soul energy during the death path passages. So a lot of this really was taught through the Atlantean mystery schools, through the Tothian schools, through the Brotherhoods of the Snake. And I'm speaking on this today because I feel like it's a huge component of these seals that I just shown you. Kind of what's up and behind a lot of this is these Tothian groups. So just be aware of all of this, you guys. Have discernment in the things that you watch and listen to. If things are pulling you into technological based beliefs of med beds and whatever future dystopia of human perfection that it's propagating, just know that we're still dealing with simple things such as weather modification, and that the whole loss of 75 lives down in Florida was due to the extenuations of these groups and their energies, and the dark spiritual archetypal energy that is associated to these things. So yeah, guys, I'm not going to get into more of these seals. I'm already running it kind of long on this video today, but I think my next video, I'm really going to get into the surrogacy aspect of the forced breeding programs. I think this is such a scary thing that's really happening. I was watching something the other day that was talking about how, the children of these surrogacies haven't really been like a studied thing. And it's really a scary deal because the mothers that are, chosen for the surrogacy are being implanted with an egg that isn't necessarily connected to the mother who's purchasing the surrogacy. So there is no like blood tie between the person who's purchasing and the person who's giving birth, and that the children that grow up from surrogacy are suffering with severe generational displacement. They struggle so much with being adjusted with reality. It's causing a whole collective of, children that are going to be targeted for more, siphoning of their indigo energy and all of these things, right? So it's just, there's so much that goes into this. I'm going to dive into it in another day. But yeah, so I love you all so much. Again, I'll leave the links in the description to some of the videos where I've touched on the topics such as the Draco seals in much more depth, because I haven't had a chance to really get into the Baphomet and the Solomon seal, which play a huge role in all of this. And the thing about the Caduceus seal, really quick, is that it goes under many, many guises and is also affecting many, many, many countries. This is how you know it's down the central shaft, is it's literally implanted in so many countries: Finland, France, Poland, Russia, Sweden, Ukraine, Australia, Canada, the United States. There's other names for the caduceus as well that it's disguised under, such as Aaron's rod, the amphisbaena, the bull of Hygeia, the crow's ear, the double-headed eagle, so which is representative of Russia and their power, the healing Simurgh, the Mithric mystery, Ningishzida, which was a Mesopotamian deity, underworld god of war. So definitely ties us back to Sumerian times, and the Anunnaki staff of Moses as well. So the staff of Moses and the Solomon seal, ultimately those together are the markings of the beast of the earth plug. A lot of people might not really know that, but energetically, that's kind of what this stuff is bringing forward. But yeah, so we have a lot of work to do still, as a whole, as a spiritual collective. And I think it's just important that we continue to have these types of conversations where we can get into the thick of this stuff. Again, like I said, make sure you're practicing discernment and focus on your own gnosis. I think that's probably the most important message out of anything, is stop listening so much to maybe like some of these card readers and, all of these things that pull you away from your own gnosis. I think it's important to align yourself to source and to the omnipotent energy of creation within yourself, and really connect to see if these messages resonate with you of what's going on in the world. And, make your own conclusions, do your own vetting out, do your own research. This is probably the most important, most imperative thing that you can do at this time. And don't use Google. Google is bought and paid for. Okay. And so everything that comes up on Google is going to be, it's going to be propaganda, essentially. So you want to outsource your knowledge to sacred books, sacred authors, well-known in research and astute studied minds. Okay. Keep your inner circle of information small and trusted. And that will just allow you to have better and deeper insight into what is really going on and what is not, and being more aware of these particular types of distortions that get washed up when the hurricane comes in. I think that was definitely a staple of weather modification that is foretelling of what things are going to look like as we move through the Black Earth. Okay, the black side of the earth. Okay, guys, so I love you all so much. And I really hope you sign up for this grid keeping course. I hope to see you there. It's going to be so epic. Like I said, so much is going to come forward in this, and I really look forward to share all of this with you. You're not going to find anything on grid keeping like what we're going to have. So much custom stuff is going into this. that it's going to just be so next level. And like I said, it starts at the beginner levels, works its way into the advanced and expert levels. So that way you can have a full scale of teachings that are going to take you into the next levels as a grid keeper and as a grid worker and as ultimately as a facilitator. Okay, guys. So I love you all so much. Thank you for listening today. Have a beautiful everything.